So, yeah, thanks guys for being on tonight and just taking an hour. And if you watch this back, just thanks for taking time. Dave and I, we love talking about family on mission, and we're really excited just to spend this time with you. But before we got started, I know we know some of you. I see a lot of familiar faces, some I don't, but wanted just to give you a little context of our story so that as we share tonight, some things might make sense of just kind of our history in our experience with our family.
And this will probably be a very biased version of our story because Kim will be sharing it. If you want the real version, I'm happy to talk to you after the webinar.
Yes. So we flipped a coin and I got to tell my version tonight. So we're going to start with that. But anyway, so Dave and I actually both, here's a picture of our family, and we'll tell you about our kids in a little bit here. But we actually both grew up as pastors' kids. And I grew up in the North. So I'm a Northerner turned Southerner. So I'm from upstate New York, Michigan, Pennsylvania. And Dave actually grew up in the South, Greenville, South Carolina, and then Florida.
Born on the campus of Bob Jones University, if you know anything about that. So the hotbed of fundamentalism is where I grew up.
Yep. So, but that was just kind of our childhood. And when really we met when we were in college. And so for me, when it was time to go to college, being up north and all the cold winters, I said, I just wanted to go to a beach. I don't know. We had this conversation with some friends today. Are you a beach person or a mountain person? And I am just, give me the beach any day of the week. And so I remember getting a Campus Crusade magazine in the mail. And there was a picture of this college called Palm Beach Atlantic University in West Palm Beach, Florida. And the dorm rooms overlook this intercoastal and there's beach pictures. I just told my parents, that's where I'm going. So sure enough, they drove me from upstate New York and dropped me off down in West Palm Beach. And so that's kind of where our story began.
I was there 2 years earlier playing soccer and blew my knee out a couple times. So Kim came on as the freshman on campus. Or one of the freshmen on campus.
The freshman, maybe? Yeah. Just one, really. But anyway, so we met my freshman year, and we went on one date. And
great. It was a very classy date.
It was really classy. Dave took me to a singing Christmas tree performance at a First Baptist church. I think we walked there. But
I didn't have a car in college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a car. But anyway, all that to say, we didn't talk after that for a year. So needless to say, our first date didn't go so well. And a year later, I was with different roommates, and all of a sudden my circle of friends were hanging out with his circle of friends, and we just started finding ourselves in the same pockets of people. And so everyone just always, because I think we're both shorter people, I won't say we're short, but we are. They just always said, oh, you guys would be such a great couple. You look great together. And we'd just be like, no, we've been there, tried that. So, but all that to say, we really spent a lot of time developing a really awesome friendship. The moral of this story is that Dave all along really liked me all this time.
This is where the biased version of the story comes in, and that's fine. We'll just let her tell her thing.
Yes. So Anyway, he really apparently liked me. And so we had one of those DTR moments at a Denny's restaurant where I thought, I need to just let him know there's just this, it's just a friendship for me. And so we sat at Denny's, and when I told him like, hey, I just want you to know, I just want to be friends. And he just looked at me across the table and basically acted like I was crazy for thinking there was anything more. So that was when I should have known this is an awesome guy who knows how to talk and leverage things, because if he would have been devastated that night, we probably would have never ended up together. So we just started hanging out even more. I was like, this is awesome. I misread that and just had built a really awesome friendship.
Yeah. And then we went on a mission trip, or I went on a mission trip with your roommate, and she started hitting on me. And then when we came home, you were like sitting on my doorstep saying, can I take you to lunch, or can I take you to dinner?
Yeah.
By the way, all this was prefaced by a haircut that I got, because I was growing my hair out as a soccer player in college, and you didn't really want anything to do with that. But once I got my haircut, it was a game changer.
I was like, whoa, who does that?
Yeah.
But I was waiting for him when he got back. He was gone for a week, and I was like, uh-oh, I love this guy. Like, it's just a moment. I was like, this is not friendship for me. And And we've been together ever since that moment. And so that's just kind of a little bit of our story, how we have met.
Yeah, but part of that was, our story was always involved with more than just me and you. It was a set of friendships beyond ourselves. Even when we got done at Palm Beach Atlantic, we had such a good experience. We said, why does this have to stop here? Who says that there's only one question, which is the what question in life, and that we just need to move on? And so all throughout our story, we have moved as a tribe of people. So there's a group of us in West Palm Beach that were doing life together that moved to Birmingham, Alabama. We were on the forefront of starting an organization called Student Life, which was a camp organization. I was doing some seminary grad work. Other people were doing that, but we were part of that. And then we moved from Birmingham, Alabama to Greenville, South Carolina with a group of us. We started a ministry called Wayfarer there from scratch. From there, we went to 3DM. And really, Kim and I have never lived anywhere just the two of us by ourselves. And part of that has been the commitment to what we're talking about tonight, which is, it doesn't just take a village to raise a child. It takes a village for a family. It takes a village to stay married. It takes a village for us to thrive in what we sense God has always been calling us to do. And that way of life, where it's not just simply a nuclear family, but a village or tribe, is what we would call family on mission. And so it is important as you raise kids. It is important in your relationship with one another, but it's beyond that to a group of friends and family that become a village that help you best lean into who God's called you to be, what God's called you to do, and that we all benefit who are part of the village in that.
Yeah. And so we're in our current season of life. We've been in Snellville for the past 6 years. It's hard to believe that. It seems like it's just been a few years. And we are in the midst. This is our family here. We have a son, Frankie. He's 13. We adopted him from Haiti. And Emma is a 17-year-old. She is actually, after this Friday, she's officially a senior in high school. And Izzy's also 13 as well. So we are in the midst with our family on mission right now, raising a group of teenagers. So it's been fun in all the different phases of just raising our children and the context of what our family looked like. We're in the teenage years.
Yeah. So here's what I want to do tonight in our conversation. We want to talk to you about 3 possible postures that your family could be in. We want to talk about the biblical foundation for what we would call family on mission. And we also want to talk about 4 tips, practical tips of what that might look like. So we're gonna progress through this, the 3 postures. Then we're going to kind of set a biblical foundation for this way of life. And then we're going to give you 4 practical tips that have really helped us as we've tried to create this and are still trying to create it.
Yeah. And I always just like to say, we're not a perfect example, but we're just a living example. And it's just been fun to press into some of actually the practicals that will come at the end of just when we thought, what are the 4 helpful things that we would say were just fundamental for raising our family and continuing to be a family on mission.
Yep. So talk to us through the 3 postures.
Yeah. So as you can see here, there's 3 postures. You can have your family and you have mission. And here's 3 postures that people normally find themselves in: family or mission, family and mission, or family on mission. And we'd love to explain those postures a little bit. So family or mission is the first one. And this is when you sacrifice family on the altar of mission, or you sacrifice your mission on the altar of family.
Yeah, so this is the place where one is greater than the other. And by the way, it doesn't have to be a Christian mission. It can be any kind of mission that you're talking about. It might be, your work-life mission or different things like that. And so sometimes what happens in our lives is that one outweighs the other. And so, we either sacrifice mission on the altar, we either sacrifice family on the altar of mission, meaning that our family takes the brunt, and whatever our mission is, that's the most important thing. And our family just suffers the ramifications of that being the most important thing. And they just take all that sacrifice and suffering upon themselves, not something they choose, just something we place on them. Or the opposite, which is almost more prevalent today, which is we sacrifice mission on the altar of family. So we start to limit what God can do through us or what he's calling us to do because of the idol of family that we have, saying, well, I could never put my family through that kind of thing. Now, either way, you get to a bad place in regard to the family or mission posture, because you end up sacrificing something that is sacred when you're living in this direction. Either you're sacrificing your family or you're sacrificing your mission. I would just tell you, I've seen many people, even in their covenant marriage, and we always say your covenant marriage will either double you or it'll have you. But I can't tell you how many people I've seen who have kind of halved themselves in their mission because of their family in such a way. And so they sacrifice their mission on the altar of family, or they sacrifice their family on the altar of mission. And they live in this kind of bifurcated world where it's only one or the other. And whatever the other is, that's the one that always suffers from whatever the priority is.
Yeah, that's great. The next one is family or mission.
Family and mission.
Oh, family and mission. I'm sorry. Should read the slide. Family and mission. So you're doing both, but you set up boundaries. So family does not really affect your mission, and your mission does not really affect your family. And so this actually posture is better than living family or mission, for sure.
Yeah, but it still sets, a boundary between the two. So what you have is your family on one place, your mission on the other place. And so you go do your family stuff and you go do your mission stuff, and you really make sure there's a big dividing line so that mission never leaks into family, family never leaks into mission, and you keep those worlds kind of separate from one another. And sometimes it means almost becoming a different person in each world. So you go be your missional self, and then you be your family self, and then your family self, and then your mission self. And so there becomes a big barrier between your family and your mission.
Yeah. And then the last posture we just want to share, we would suggest that living family on mission is the best way to live. And that is just living a life that is integrated and intentional.
Which is basically saying that we can't talk about the mission without talking about our family. And we can't talk about our family without talking about the mission. That we're working on this together. It's integrated into everything we do. We'll talk later about this. It doesn't mean we're all doing the same thing all the time. Doesn't mean we don't have different worlds that we go into. Doesn't mean we're all together all the time or anything like that. But it does mean that there is a cohesion between the family that we're creating and the mission that we're on. And the mission is creating a family, and that the family is inspired by a mission that we're creating together. So what I want to do right now is just kind of ask you, and you can kind of put stuff in the comments if you want, what posture do you find yourself in right now? And again, there's no right or wrong answer really on this. We're all in a progression for that. And Kim and I aren't always in the posture of family on mission. Sometimes we're in family and mission. Sometimes we're in family or mission. So this is not like a static reality that once you get somewhere, you're always there. It's one of these things that we have to fight for every single day, because we have a tendency to default into family and mission or family or mission. And so we just want to start by asking the question, where do you find yourself right now? And, you can be honest about that. You can put in the chat box about that. And quite frankly, even right now, we're struggling between the family on mission and the family and mission kind of thing, because we're moving in so many different directions, and we have to fight for that. It's something that we struggle with from time to time.
Any thoughts? Family and mission, alternating. Dana says alternating between and on.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's normal and natural. And we want you to say, nothing that we do tonight wants to put any guilt, shame, or anything on anyone. This is a dynamic reality that we need the Spirit of God to continue to guide us into over and over again. But we do want to hopefully help give some default patterns and ways of life that'll help you live more into the family on mission deal.
Yeah. And it's always great just to identify what is, because you can't get to what could be until you just know what your current realities are. So it's just, again, always just helpful to just keep having your grid on, hey, where are we at right now? And where are we working towards?
Yeah. Well, in that, as you really work on family on mission, it brings up two different kinds of questions. And that is the who question and the what question. And these are really important when it comes to building a life, because both these questions are important. I would just suggest to you that the quality of your life is directly related to the quality of people you choose to do life with. And this is important because when we get out of college, a lot of times, the only question that people ask us is, what is it that you're going to do with your life? So, you can think back to maybe even conversations with your mom and dad and different things. If you got out of college and, they said, what are you going to do? And you say, well, I've got a great job in California, and so I'm going to move to California. They would totally get that. And that would make perfect sense to them. But if you said, hey, there's some people in California that we want to do life with, and that's why we're moving to California, they'd be like, what are you doing with your life, right? Because as Americans, we have this tendency to elevate the what over the who. But what we're trying to say is that the who of your life is just as important as the what. It's not that the what's not important. We want to answer the what question, but we also want to answer the who question. And this was a huge thing in Kim and my story because we got out of college and we said, why is it that people are only asking the what question? Who says that we get out of college and we all just need to go our separate directions? We have something really special here. What if we answered the who question? And what we found all of our life is, if we attach ourselves to the right who, we can answer the what question. But if we answer the what question, we might not always get the right who. And so what happens in America is that we often what ourselves into isolation. And so we what ourselves for the bigger job and the better place. And before you know it, we live in the right neighborhood, we've got the right car, we're doing the right thing, and we're totally isolated from everyone around us. And so what we're saying is that the who question is just as important as the what question. And actually the quality of your life is directly related to the quality of people that you choose to do life with. This is so important for Kim and I. We've never moved anywhere by ourselves. We've always said, if we get the right who, we will be able to get the right what. And so we have always either taken people with us when we've moved, or we've moved into a group of people that we would call our family. And this has been a huge thing for us because even when you're moving and things like that, it's not just biblical, which I'm going to drop into here in just a moment. It's just incredibly practical. Your kids get up to speed in 6 months rather than 6 years, because when they have a village around them, when they move with inbuilt friendships or move into friendships, they have confidence and security in a way that if they don't, it takes 6 years to kind of build. And so for us, we've always valued that so much that we said that is something that we want to choose to keep at a high priority of our life. We want to find quality people that we're doing life with. We want to create a village. And out of that, we feel like the mission will reveal itself. And as we're on mission, we'll have the support structure that we need to be able to do that well and not simply, kill ourselves on the altar of mission.
Yeah. And that's even real practical. We have a 17-year-old that's looking at colleges, and I often find myself, what are you going to do with your life? What are you going to do? And that is important. Like, we want to help her figure that out, but also just starting to navigate that language of like, what kind of culture are you looking for in a school that you might want to go to? Where are the people that you might feel drawn to that have similar things that you can relate to and connect to? So it's just balancing those two. Yeah.
So I want to take a little bit of time and just kind of show you that this isn't just a practical reality. It's a deeply biblical reality. Before we get to this passage here, even if you go back to Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 or 28 here, actually when God makes man and woman, the first thing that he says to them, verse 28 says, God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, and over every living creature that moves on the ground. So the first thing that God says to Adam and Eve is to go make a family. Be fruitful and increase. And he said, the reason I want you to make a family is because I want you to rule and reign. So from the very beginning, this has been on God's heart. And by the way, even in our understanding, our Christian understanding of God, God is a family. Father and son is family language. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, that is a family that is on mission together. And so as they create humanity, the first thing they say is, we want you to do life the way that we're doing life. We want you to make a family, and we want that family to be on mission. And even for Adam, if you think about that command to Adam, Adam is incapable of doing that on his own. Biologically, he's incapable. He needs the helper suitable to be brought to him in Eve. And those words in Hebrew are the azar kenegdo, that's the helper suitable. And it's only as Eve is brought to Adam and as they become one that family is capable of being formed and that they can accomplish the mission that God has had on them, which is what I always say to people. If you can accomplish God's mission on your life on your own, you've probably misheard God or overestimated yourself, because nothing that God calls us to do can we do on our own. It requires a family. And you see this all throughout the Old Testament. Once the world has been broken, God comes to Abram and he says, I want you to make a family that's on mission. Go and increase and multiply. He says it to Noah after the flood. Increase and multiply. He says it to Jeremiah while Israel's in exile. Every stage of Israel's life, God's priority is the same. I'm a family. I want you to create a family that's on mission with me. And it's the way that Jesus lived. Even as a single man, Jesus created a family on mission. John chapter 1 tells us that in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word the Word became flesh. And basically, as it talks about Jesus there, it says that he dwelt among us. Well, Jesus comes from a family on mission, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. He comes to earth, sent from a family on mission. If you read the Gospel of Luke, you know that he's born into a biological family that rejects him because he comes out of the wilderness. He goes in the tabernacle, the temple, and he reads from Isaiah chapter 61, his mission. The people want to throw him off a cliff, and no one in his biological family comes to his aid. And he's rejected in Nazareth. So the first thing he does after that is he goes to Capernaum, and in Capernaum, he attaches himself to Peter's family. Most of the stuff that we read in the New Testament, the oikos, or the family on mission, that's the Greek word for family, is really Peter's oikos that Jesus attaches himself to. And in Capernaum, why Capernaum? Why does he go there? Well, in John chapter 1, Peter and John, and he's got 5 people in John chapter 1 that present themselves to him as people of peace. And so he goes to Capernaum and he anchors out of Peter's house. And in Mark chapter 3, I want you to hear Jesus's words on this because he totally redefines family. He's there in Peter's oikos, and his mom and brothers come to take him. And really what they want to do is put him in an insane asylum because they think he's out of his mind. They think he's saying things that are crazy. And in verse 32, we can look down here at the passage here. It says, a crowd was sitting around him, and they told him, your mother and your brothers are outside looking for you. And then verse 33, who are my mother and my brothers? Jesus asked. Then he looked around at those seated in a circle around him and said, here are my mother and my brothers. And here's where he totally redefines what family is. Verse 35, he says, whoever does God's will with me is my brother and my sister and my mother. So when Jesus defines family, he defines family not by necessarily just blood relationships, although it might include that. But for Jesus, family is the people that are on mission with him. And if you trace this from Jesus, he creates a group of disciples that become his family on mission. If you look at Acts, it's exactly what Paul does. We love to give Paul a lot of credit. But if you look at any of the epistles, it's not even Paul who wrote them. It's a group of people. It's Luke, it's Timothy, it's Paul, it's Priscilla and Aquila. There's an oikos of people that become this incredible team of people. And part of what we see in the multiplication of the Christian movement, Rodney Stark would say, who is a sociologist, would say Christianity went from 120 people to over 51% of the Roman Empire, mainly because it spread from household to household. And really, it was families on mission that were reproducing the gospel movement. So when you look at the rapid explosion of Christianity, it's not because it's a state-sponsored religion. It's not because they've got great buildings or great personalities. It's because what happens in these little families on mission is explosive in the nature of what it is. Now, again, you can take my word for it. You can take the Bible's word for it. But if you look at the business world, same thing. Most of the great companies are families on mission. Most of the great churches that I know of started as about 30 people in a living room that started. I mean, every mega church I've ever been to started in a living room with about 30 people that were doing family life. And quite frankly, when they get to thousands of people, the thing they miss most when I go in and consult them is they miss the 30-person group that was that village. And so what happens is that little 30-person village produced this huge thing, but they forgot to multiply that. And so what ends up happening is they start running this big church, and the thing they miss most is that little village kind of deal. And the thing that actually created that was that. You go to businesses, family-run businesses, family on mission kind of business. You go to great businesses, they start in that kind of way. And it's over and over and over again. Sports teams, same kind of way. Why are sports teams so powerful? Because they're a family on mission. They have a mission to win games, and they've created a family. They talk about a family that way. Why are fraternities and sororities so powerful? Because they're families on mission that are actually doing things in service, but have created a family. Why are gangs so powerful? Because gangs are a family on mission. Listen to the way that gang members talk. They talk about each other as a family. This is our family, and we have a mission. May not be the right mission, but we're on a mission together as a family. So all the powerful things that you see happening in society go back to this idea of family on mission. And what we find from the very beginning is that this has been on God's heart from the beginning of time. What do you want to add to that?
What do you add to that? I always tell Dave, you say everything and then I don't have anything left to say. No, I love it. Anybody have in the chat room after questions on that, thoughts as we keep going?
Unfortunately, it's also the thing that scars you the most. And so the problem with a family on mission is that if you live it out, you will eventually have the scars to prove it, because there's nothing that can hurt you more than family. And there's nothing that can make you feel like a failure more than not accomplishing mission. And so what ends up happening is because of our scars, sometimes we just dampen the mission and we dampen the family, and we just start to believe that we're in this on our own and there's nothing worthwhile to accomplish. And we just start to dampen this stuff down. And what we're just trying to say is we have the scars to prove it. Quite frankly, we've been through the ringer. We've seen the great parts of it. We've been through the bad parts of it. We have the scars to prove it. But even in those places where we got scars, we look back and say, if I had to trade all the goodness of that, even if I knew that the scars were coming, the good was so good, we would still have gone for it, even in the midst of the scars.
Yeah, and it's still why we fight for it every day today. It's just the best way to live.
Yeah. So with that, we want to get practical tonight and give you 4 practices or tips on what this looks like, because, you know, we're talking theoretical, we're talking theological, but we need practical. We need just kind of practice. What's that look like on a regular basis? And so we want to spend the rest of the time just really talking about these 4 practices that have really helped us. Again, we're not perfect. We're not just simply the model, like we're not a perfect example. We hopefully be a living example. We don't do this every day, but when we're at our best, these are things that we would like to pass on to other people.
Yeah. And family on mission. So these are trying to pull out, there's lots of different nuggets to pull out. And so even just talking tonight, knowing we only have an hour, you know, we offer family on mission at Grace as a weekend intensive, which is a Friday, Saturday, and also in our classes, and they're 12-week classes. And so, but we were just praying about like, what are the 4 things if we have an hour to share? And so the first one we both agreed on is just to learn to listen to God together. This is huge. The most important thing that you can do for your family is to teach them to hear the voice of God for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing you can do for any individual, the most empowering thing you can do is to help them hear God for themselves, which then multiplied to the most important thing you do for your family is to help them hear the voice of God for themselves as well, which means one of the practices that we have as a family is not just simply when it comes to big decisions in life or things like that, to just mandate things on our kids. We're trying to actually say, hey, we think God is saying something. Could you listen with us to see if this is something that God is revealing to all of us so that all of us can step into it?
Yeah. And in just, you know, these are in little moments that happen in every ordinary day, or just those big things that happen in life where you just feel God calling you into something. And we just always function as a family. If he's going to speak to one of us, we just truly believe that he'll confirm that to each person in our family. I remember we were thinking about making a big move. We were in Greenville, South Carolina for 10 years. During that time, my grandparents had moved into the neighborhood we lived in. They lived 4 doors down. My mom and dad had moved into the area, my sister, and we just had a lot of just immediate family and also extended family. We lived with our friends, all in community, and we just really felt like that the Lord was bringing
excuse me, sorry,
bless you, a new season to us, and really felt like he was calling us to move. And it was really hard. And we had kids. Our oldest was in 2nd grade at the time, and they really struggled with that just because all of our family's there, and it was just not something easy. They didn't want to do that. And we just told our kids, we just said, you know what? We want you to pray about it and ask God if he will give you confirmation that we're supposed to go. And so I think it was 2 weeks later, I would drop Emma off to school in the morning and pick her up in carpool. I know some of you are in that at times. And she was in the car. We were driving home one day, and she said, Mom, I have something to tell you. And I was like, what? And she's like, God told me today we're supposed to go. And so I just love the fact that when God calls us to things and we hear things from him, we can trust that he's going to speak to our community together, that we don't have to force that. And it's just been a real powerful thing, because even when times get hard, when you can walk on a word on your own, like not someone's word that was given to someone else, but that's a word that was for you, it just makes, when the hard times come, you able to stand on that ground.
Which is huge for your kids, because, we didn't make that move because mom and dad said we didn't make the move. Emma got the word for herself that God was calling us to make the move. And so, when we made the move, it's not just simply, well, mom and dad dragged me along. It was, no, our family listened into God together, and together God gave us several set of ears to listen to him. But it's not just kids. I mean, it's been that way in our life as well in regard to different things. There's been certain things that God's spoken to me that we've moved on. There's been things that God's spoken to you. I mean, adoption's one of those things. I didn't think we had the time, energy, or resources, quite frankly, to do adoption. But God was speaking to Kim about that. And now, sitting on the back end of that 10 years later, I'm so thankful that we had 2 sets of ears, 4 ears to listen to God together, because that would never have been anything that I was inclined toward. But the fact that we are in covenantal relationship with one another, Kim listening to God and sensing that, brought so much more joy to my life in pursuing something that I would never have pursued on my own. But because I'm with her, we were able to do that. And it's been fantastic. It's been hard sometimes, but it's been fantastic. Same thing's true with your friends. Let's take things even like 10,000 Fathers or things like that. I wouldn't necessarily ever see myself, training worship leaders or anything like that. But all of a sudden you're part of that family, and that's part of what they do. And you find places to do that and multiply that kind of thing. And so over and over again, I would just say the mission gets more diverse and beautiful when you are part of a village that is working that out together. And so it means that we're all listening to God together. It doesn't mean it's easy. Sometimes it doesn't mean we all hear the same things. We have to work through that and some of the conflict that comes with that kind of thing. But as you're empowering that in your nuclear family and your missional family, the world becomes a lot more rich.
Yeah, that's great. The next practical thing we would like to tell you is fight for your family language. Words create worlds. Language creates culture. This has been something real powerful for our family. And what I mean by when I say fight for your family language, from an early onset, when our kids were itty bitty, we decided to say, this is who the Rhodes family is. This is what we're called to do. And these are our values. And we have tried to live into those the best that we can over the years. And the beautiful thing is, being 15 years removed from putting those in place in our home, we have just seen the power of uniting a family around a common mission together. This is who we are. We're the Rhodeses. Our vision, we show and tell people Jesus. We've used that through our home almost weekly when we talk about things or when struggles come up or victories happen. It's just been a powerful thing. So fight for your family language.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about leaders create culture, and the way that leaders create culture is through the language that they speak. Again, going back to the Bible, this is deeply biblical. Words create worlds. The world that we have came from the voice box of God. God spoke and things were created. All throughout the Bible, you see the power of language that's being used. Moses picks up the language of Eden to bring a group of people to the promised land. He uses the same language, good and plentiful land, that God describes Eden with to describe the promised land. It's that visionary language. And so the question here is, what's the visionary language that you are using to guide your family? Is there a sense that your family knows what your family does and who your family is? Your visions talk about what you do. Your values talk about who you are. So these two things are incredibly important, the what and the who kind of question. And for us, that's been something that's been huge in regard to how we talk about everything that we do. So I travel a lot. I'm on the road a lot, but never once have we talked about really Dave travels for work.
Dad's going to work.
Like we don't talk about, dad's choosing work over the family or whatever it is. What we try and bring our kids into is the language of, hey, here's our family vision. We show and tell people Jesus. It's what we do. It's what we do. And sometimes we can all go. And when we can all go, we all go. And when we can't all go, one of us goes and represents the family. So there are places that our family mission and vision take us, and only dad can go there. Sometimes we all go. When we all go, we all try and play. Our kids go into school. We can't go to school with them, but they're there to show and tell people Jesus. And we can't go there with them, but they're representing our family. And we tried to use this is language that we used when our kids were little because we wanted them to be able to know everything we do. We show and tell. We're going to show people Jesus, and we're going to tell people about Jesus. And everything we do, all decisions we make, our budgets, all that kind of stuff is built to show and tell people Jesus. And then our values are built to help our family think about who are we? Well, we're about Christ, not just about Christianity. We're not into religion. We're into the person of Jesus, and we're letting him reform that. We're into rhythms, not just simply regimen. We're people who wrestle and don't just settle. We're people who walk by faith. We go before we know. We do we before me. It's not just simply about any of us individually. And so, we take great discipline, not just in naming this, but it's pictured up on our wall in our kitchen. This is, in front of our family all the time, because we know this: if we don't fight for our family language, someone else will try and co-opt our family with their language. And so if you don't know who you are or what you're about, everywhere else on the planet will try and tell you who you are and what you're about. And if you're not careful, you'll just become whatever people pay you to be. You'll become whatever people expect you to be. And everyone in your family will be moving in that direction. And so we use the word fight to say we have to fight for our family language. We have to guard that, because that's the vision of what we're supposed to do and who we are. And it has to, move into everything that we do as a family.
Yeah. And I love having conversations with families about every family is so unique, and the mission and things that you value, and, just trying to work that out. And some other examples just to stoke your creative imagination. But here's some examples, like this family's vision: awaken families to life in God's grace. And there's their values. We value faith. We value relationships. We value simplicity. We value rhythm. This next one, joining Jesus in his work is a vision for this family. And together is best, always grace, never shame, freedom to ask for what you want, carry your load, share your burden, wisdom trumps rules, and no such thing as should. And then this last one's just real simple too. We represent our Father by who we are and what we do. And they just have 3 values. We love one another, we forgive each other, we have fun together. So just saying that it's really worth, if you've never thought about this, you're like, oh, I don't know if we have that. Or maybe you're living into some things that is your vision values, but you've just never taken time to name them and articulate them. It's just a really great thing when you think about family on mission, is to just define that language for your family. Who are you? And what is your vision? And what are the things that you value?
So practices with these first 2 is just simply saying, how do we take time to include our kids and our friends and our biological family into what we're hearing from God? Like, how do we do that are there any practices or rhythms? Do we read the word together? Do we pray together? Is there a sense that we're dynamically engaged with what God is saying, not just to me or to Kim, but to us? And then second is what's the language that we're using? Because that language is so important. Is there language that brings us together so that the world doesn't tear us apart? And the Fighting for the Family language is just language that stands that test and brings us together. Number 3 is to create predictable life patterns and rhythms. So this is now how we begin to practice about what we're hearing and what we're saying.
Yeah. So the best test of our true priorities is whatever shows up on our schedule. And so when you just think about being a family on mission, if you just look at your 7-day week, the things that are taking up your time are things that you value, that you're putting your time into. And so we would just say that there's just been a couple rhythms that have been so important for our family that we've tried to base just our weeks around, our months around, our years around. One of those rhythms is living the integrated life. If you've been around grace and language, we try to live as a family up, in, and out. And what that means is up is just time with God. What does it look like for our family to get together and have time with the Lord? What does that look like in our week? The in is just in community and relationship with other people. We truly value a rhythm of being in community with people, that our family knows people. We do life with people. I have someone to call. We always just say, if you're moving and you got someone to load your truck, who are the people that are going to load your truck up? Do you have those people in your life? And what a value that brings. And then the out is just your mission. Like, what are you doing together? That's just trying to have kingdom impact in the places in your neighborhood, in the places that you work, at the schools where your kids may go. I know we've talked a lot about kids in schools, and I do know that not everyone here probably has children, but in your extended family, what does it look like to have eyes for other people?
Yeah, and those are great concepts, but I love what you said at the beginning, which is those have got to appear on your calendar. It's actually what's on your calendar that prioritizes, which is the regular rhythms, and creating that regular schedule, because that regular rhythm schedule creates predictability. From that predictability, your kids get security, your family gets security. Out of that security, they walk with a sense of significance, and from that significance, they create success. Now, again, this is all deeply biblical. It's just true. Tiger Woods, one of the best golfers to ever live. He knows this. He knows that prioritization on the calendar and regular rhythms of home, so to speak, create success for him on the golf course. Literally, Tiger Woods would have someone drive his car to the places that he would play. He would fly, someone would drive his car. And the reason someone would drive his car is because he wanted that sense of familiarity in home on his way to the golf course and back. Sometimes literally he'd even move some of his furniture from his house into the rental house that he had for the week so that he could feel like he was sitting in his own recliner, so that he would have this sense of home, which would create security for him to venture out to do the things that he was supposed to do. I always talk about Marky Mark because I'm a child of the 80s, but I was watching Ellen, not too long ago, and Marky Mark revealed his schedule. This is a guy who has an incredible rhythm. He gets up at 3:30 in the morning. He's working out. He's playing golf. He comes home. He's in bed by 7. And what I want to always believe is that, he just has better talent than I do. The truth is he has better discipline talent. He has he has a more predictable pattern and rhythm in his life. And so when we talk about create predictable patterns and rhythms, what we find is that these give our kids security. It gives our family security. You don't just walk up and become family with people. As you talk about up in and out, you're saying, what are the rhythms that we do? When are we going to share meals together? Because it's as we share meals, we become family. What is it that we're going to do together? We're going to be out on the edge risking a little bit together because something happens in that moment that makes us family through shared experience and shared risk, that something happens in regard to relationships.
And then just another important rhythm is just rest and work rhythm. It's been interesting in this season. You talk to a lot of different people, and some are in a season of just, this has been awesome. They're enjoying it. It's a slower pace. They're rested, they're relaxed. other people you talk to in the same day, and they're like, we're stressed out. This is crazy. Everything's thrown off. But we just really, as a family, value rest and work. And we want the things that we do and go after to come from a place of rest for us. We don't want to just work, go after all these things and crash back into rest. And so that's been a huge rhythm in our lives of just carving out space to actually Sabbath and have, as a family, personally and as a family, have rest. That's a predictable rhythm in our schedule.
And what that looks like in a family is purpose and play. So it's how are you playing together, and how are you making time to play together without any agenda, just playing and being around each other and enjoying each other's company. And then how are you doing purpose together? And really saying there's times we do purpose, there's times we do play, there's times that we're just hanging out and having a good time. There's times when we are incredibly serious and we're moving towards something. And the truth is this: you can only have as much purpose as you have play in your life. Amen. You can only have as much purpose as you have play in your life. Because if you just have purpose and no play, you're going to burn out. It's actually the play that gives the energy for the purpose. It's the not just rest, but restoration. It's a recreation. First thing that God asked man to do when he's created is to come rest with me, come be with me. And so this sense of recreation and play is to say, we can only challenge our kids as much as we're willing to play with them. And we can only have purpose for our family and as much as we're willing to play together. And so that leads us into this last one, which is really important, which is to champion each other's strengths and limit each other's weaknesses. And part of that is championing the way each of us rest and work, and to not simply hold that against each other, but to cheer for one another on this. So what we say here is family on mission doesn't mean doing the same things. It means doing different things with the same mission.
Yeah. And it's just that we're not in competition with each other, but we're complimenting each other.
And we're cheering for each other. And so, you know, if Kim has a rest day, I'm not saying, well, I wish you can't rest day if I didn't get a rest day, you know, or if Kim's seeing something happen in her work that's incredible success, I'm not holding that over her head saying, well, you can only be this successful, you know, and, you know, because I'm here, you know, it's saying, no, your best success is our best success. Your best fun is our best fun. Your best rest is our best rest. And that means not simply holding your success over your head or you holding my success over our head, but recognizing that our strengths help each other move forward. Our successes help move each other forward, but we can also limit each other's weaknesses in these things as well.
Yeah. And really, your win's my win, and my win is Dave's win.
At our best, not always, but like at our best, in our good times. There's sometimes that my win is her loss and her win is my loss. At least that's what we feel initially. But we try and default back to say, no, really, we're going to be better off if we champion each other.
Yeah. And this is just a silly example, but it's really true. And I think it plays out in a lot when we were just talking about rest and work, just places that cause us to rest. But from early on in our marriage, Dave would always go on a golf tournament every year. It was one time a year. Oh, there's a picture.
2 times a year.
Well,
it was started as one. It's now 2.
2 times a year, guys. But you can imagine, I mean, this, and I love it, the same group of people, his college friends, his big family on mission that he has there, go off and they go play golf together every year. And through the younger years with my kids, when it's really hard, just like, it was really easy for me to maybe become bitter and be like, I'm stuck here, I get to do this. But what I've learned through time is that when Dave gets to recreate, he comes home a better person. He comes home a better father. He comes home a better husband. And there's just so much joy that it brings to our family. And so instead of looking at it as, well, why you get to go to this, I'm stuck at home. If you get to do that, then I should get to do this. Instead of doing that competition, well, you got that moment, where's my moment? I just really started shifting my mind to, no, you get to go do this, and it's actually going to help our family win, to the point where now it's 2 times a year. And I'm so thankful when those moments happen. It's been hard. His tournament got canceled this year because of COVID.
We're rescheduling for a couple weeks from now, though.
I've heard rumors of that. But it's a real powerful, and I've noticed a difference. Even like, I hate that for you. And because it does, when you come home, it just does something to your soul. Yeah. Allows us to be better. Yeah.
And it's part of understanding that the family on mission isn't just about her and I. There's this broader group of people, and how do we spend time there? So this group of guys it's 20 or 30 of us guys that have been together since college, and we're all in ministry or, business or different things like that. Millions of people's lives are getting changed if you put the combined influence. When we go there, we try and beat each other's brains in for 4 days. We talk trash to each other. We hang out, and then we speak life into each other as well. And it just becomes this incredible thing. And we've been doing these tournaments for over 20 years. And it's part of that predictable pattern that we talked about. So I go do this. On the other hand, Kim has a girls trip that she takes every year. And, they've been doing cruises or different things like that. Here's a picture of her. By the way, your picture is way better than mine. You picked my worst golf picture ever to put up there. And, she goes on trips with girlfriends, and it's just them. And I keep the kids, and we spend more money while mom's gone than mom does on her vacation, because dad doesn't know exactly how to keep the house by himself. And so we're going out to eat every night and, trying to, keep the kids entertained. But no, seriously, like, we champion that. And every time Kim comes home, she's way better. She's way better off. So it'd be easy to hold those things over each other's head, but we champion. Now, we have times that we get together on our own. That's part of our predictable rhythm. Times when we take our family, we do family vacations. So normally we try and do one vacation that's just us. We do, 1 or 2 with the kids. We do these things separately. But part of that is because of this. We know we can't live the life God's called us to live at the capacity with which our everyday life is being lived out if we don't have play rhythms in our life to create the capacity for that missional. I can't tell you how many people I've seen burn out because they have all kinds of purpose but no play. They have all kinds of mission and all kinds of things that they feel called to do, but no community of people to go and be family with. So that means setting those predictable patterns, and it means cheering for each other because we can't all do everything all the time. And it means this. It means that we don't have to do exactly the same thing. So you work at Grace, Snellville. I work at Snellville and the family, and then I'm part of Unique. You don't have to be involved in everything that I do. I don't have to be involved in everything you do, but it does mean whatever each of us is doing, we're doing it from the same kind of family mission.
Well, I know we're running out of time, and I would love to just in the chat, if there's just some Q&A stuff or some questions or anything that we can process together. I really appreciate, I know we both do, you all being on here tonight and taking time to be with us about the chat room. It's just all the stuff that we talked about tonight, anything that comes to mind? Questions you have?
You can come off mute too. You don't have to put it in the chat. Yeah. You can come off mute and talk to us if there's anything.
A smaller group of us.
Or you can push back on, like, you don't have to just swallow this stuff. We're willing, you can push back on and say, I think you're crazy, and here's why I think you're crazy, and all that kind of stuff. Totally fine. I've had people call me a heretic many times or different things like that. But if you have any questions, happy for you to ask them.
All right, so this is Amanda Marcus here.
Yeah.
I guess we just had a question about how you guys came to your vision and purpose statement for your family. Did you invite your kids on that? Was that before them? How did you kind of get to that?
Yeah, I mean, some of the exercises that you see in Unique now actually started not as individual exercises, but as family exercises for us. And to just go back and, look at our story, to force ourselves to say, could we say this in 6 words? So to show and tell people Jesus is that kind of 6-word kind of thing that we help individuals do now in Unique, but it came out of that kind of deal. But it was looking back and saying, how can we articulate something that we can all do together? So there's Dave's personal mission, there's Kim's personal mission, but what is it that we all do together, and who is it that we all become together?
Yeah. And, we set that mission when our kids were really little, so they weren't involved in that language, and like the show and tell, it was simple enough for them. But really Dave is a teller. He does that with his life. he goes places, he consults, he talks to people. And for me, I have such a heart for hospitality. And the way that I flesh that out is I end up showing people Jesus, hopefully, in the spaces that I get to create. So it's real intentional language for our family. And we've had, just in some of our family on mission classes, it's been really fun to see other families that have kids like work and process this out. Like, what are the things, if you had a mission together, how do you articulate that as your family? And then the values too, like working through that with kids is an awesome thing to do. When you just say, hey, we're the Rhodes family. What do you think the things that are names that define us? What would represent us? And a lot of times our values are things that offend you most. So if you're just trying to figure out, hey, what are our values? What are the things that like, this offends me? Because a lot of times if something is really offending you, it's because you highly value something. And so that's been a fun way to try to press into some of that language.
But thankfully you asked, we have a whole class that takes you through all of that. So that's part of what this webinar is about, as well as to say, hey, we're just trying to give you some high level stuff. We have a whole progression that we love to do. I mean, Kim does it with ladies, but we love to do it with men and women to help them work through these kinds of things where we actually guide them in coming up with their family mission and their family values. Good question. Any other questions?
Hello, this is Florence.
Yes.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing this. It's a discussion that myself and Alan have been having, like how do we even bring the kids on board? Because we used to do missions, like, outreach and a lot of activities, but with the little ones, with our youngest being around 2.5, we're wondering, like, what's the best time? Like, when do we get back, getting together as a family? But hearing you speak, I think it will be helpful for us to do that class as well and like walk through the different steps. Yeah,
totally. And remember, Florence, one of the first things one of the best things you can do as a parent for your little kids, and we started with Emma when she was 3 or 4 years old, is just really teaching her to hear God's voice and praying and reading the word and different things like that. But really just what is it that you sense God is saying to you, and to affirm that, and once that happens, some of this other stuff just kind of begins to come into place. But sometimes you have this other stuff, but if you're not teaching your kids to hear God's voice, they end up just thinking all this stuff is just stuff that's forced on them. And so just understanding that the most important thing you can do as a parent as your kids grow up is to really help them hear God's voice for themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Nice. So you got Brittany giving you a little shout out.
Yeah. So it's been fun. I didn't read all of that, but I've loved being able to walk through this process with women and just working through some of these things. And it's been one of the best places that I park my time in this year. So it's been great.
Right. Yeah, you're great at it. All right, I think that leaves us right about 9:02, so we probably need to wrap it up.
I know. Well, thank y'all so much. And again, we offer those classes that will be coming up in the fall and opportunities. And so Family on Mission is one of our core classes at Grace, and we hope that everyone can participate in all the different core classes that we offer. But it's one that's a real good one and hopefully helpful to you. So
yeah, thanks for playing along tonight. Yeah. Again, we're always available if you want to have one-on-one conversations or couple conversations. We're happy to do that. When we all get back together, we're happy to go to dinner or lunch and do that together. But anything we can do to help you out, we always want to be available for that. So thank you guys for tonight.
No, thank y'all. Let me pray for us real quick. Lord, just thanks for this time tonight. Thank you for just talking about what it means to be a family on mission. Just pray that as we continue just to walk in the things that you have for us that are in front of us, that you would just bring clarity to the kingdom work you have for us and the family, and open our eyes to the people around us that you might be bringing to us or that are already part of our circle of friends, that we can connect and do life together. So we just thank you again for this time tonight, and just pray blessing over everyone on this call. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.